Hello everyone, Judymay Murphy here. So a really quick video today about selling. Why is it that those of us who are softer, more timid, identify perhaps as shy or introverted, whatever label that you feel is useful for you to wear right now, it can be tougher for us to sell. We often crumble at that moment when it's time for us to just get in there and say, hey, this is what I've got to offer, this is what I'm doing. And it might be selling ourselves into a position of authority, it might be selling someone on an idea, and most of the time it is selling a particular product or a service. So why is it? Let me just have a little look at my notes here so that we can stay on track and make sure that we're getting this done the right way. So the very first thing that we tend to do is we tend to not recognize that the reaction that we're having, which makes us pull back from a sale. So let's suppose that you know exactly what it is that you want to say. You know who you want to say it to, you approach that person, and you're just about to either have the conversation or you're just about to pick up the phone, and it doesn't happen. And what you'll do is you'll say to yourself something like, well, right now isn't the best time. I'll wait until Monday. Or you'll say, I don't know exactly how to say this. I want to wait to get it really right because this is such an important sale for me. Or we'll say to ourselves, you know what, they just won't be into it. I won't talk to them. I'll talk to someone else. That'll be a more strategic thing to do. I think it's really useful at the moment that happens is to remember what John Hume taught us. David Hume, the Scottish philosopher David Hume. John Hume's a politician, right? So David Hume, the Scottish philosopher, who I really, really love, because he was the first one to identify the fact that we have an emotional reaction first, that we are doing things for emotional reasons primarily, and then after that happens, we justify it. So it's not that we are being all rational and logical and intelligent about this sales process. It's like we have this feeling of, oh no, I don't want to ask for something. I'm not good at asking. You know, maybe when you were a kid, you asked for something and you were ashamed for that. You were made to feel like, how dare you need or want anything on this planet. Whatever happened to you, you now are in a situation where it's just very hard to trust you and the other person and the process of simply identifying, asking, receiving. It seems very straightforward, but for us it's not, because emotionally it all got mixed up. It all just became a tangled mess. And we're still living under that same tangled mess of a brain. Doesn't mean it can't be untangled, but while we're still feeling not good about sales, I remember the time when I didn't feel good about sales. I remember the time when I felt awful. Even to the point of, I would have all these people lined up who would say, I want to work with you. And I had to hire someone to come along and just collect the money. I felt that like shame bound around it. This like 15 years ago, I remember this so well, this lovely lady who I had to hire to do just that bit. And she said, why do you need me? Why am I doing it? And at the time it was a pretty good decision, because I hadn't healed, I hadn't identified any of this stuff. I didn't know that I was having this visceral emotional reaction. I just thought it was that, you know, if I asked for the money, it wouldn't happen. Just a very vague feeling of not being good enough in this area. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to make sure that we don't have these sort of like vague, blurry feelings of yucky holding us back when it comes to creating wealth and creating good things in our lives. So recognize that, just catch yourself in it, just realize that's what's going on here. It is an emotional reaction that I'm having. It's not that clever idea. So it's not that it would be better on Monday. It's that it's Friday right now and I don't feel good right now. And then you can make a decision, maybe now or maybe later on, to maybe say to yourself, okay, I don't feel good, and I'm going to just try it anyway. I'm going to just give it a go, and I'm going to notice how I feel. I'm not going to pay so much attention to what the other person is doing, their end of it. I'm just going to notice, am I saying it? Am I showing up? And that really is how I eventually worked my way into a situation now where I can have a sales talk, I can have a money talk with pretty much anybody about anything. And that way that I used to get emotionally hooked, like my gut, my stomach, my hands would shake, I'd sweat. It would just be awful. And it wouldn't go away quickly either. So, you know, I really, really do get it if you're having a tough time with that. But you know what? That's just for now. and it can heal, the first step is recognize that it's not just this kind of clever thing that we're justifying it into. The emotion comes first and then we justify it. So just catch yourself doing that justification and realize that that's what it is. Okay, point 2. What we're going to talk about is we try too much to get into other people's heads. We try to do both halves of the equation. So what we're doing is, rather than just saying, okay, it's my job to communicate this, it's my job to say, this is my product, this is my service, this is how much it costs, this is how the delivery happens, this is what happens if you're not happy with it after you receive it. Whatever it is that needs to be said, it's in fact quite straightforward. But what we do, because we are so used to caring about the other person so deeply, we immediately put ourselves into their shoes. Because, right? That's just what we do. Why wouldn't we? Yeah? That's the way our brain works. So we immediately put ourselves into the other person's shoes, not realizing that that's none of our business. So let's imagine that you're trying to sell birthday cakes. Like, you make these really great birthday cakes and you're trying to sell them to someone who you know is a student. And so immediately you'll say to yourself, well, you know what? They probably don't have a lot of money, and because my cakes are so awesome, they cost more money. So I won't try and sell them my cakes. I'll let them go and find a cheaper cake somewhere else. Well, first of all, how do you know that that student doesn't have money? Just because you and I, when we were students, we didn't have any money and we had to work 2 or 3 jobs just to keep things together. Just because that was our experience doesn't mean that's their experience. So you just don't know. Plus, when you don't make the approach, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to practice selling, to practice saying to people, hey, this is what I do and this is why I love it. This is why other people love the product. This is the kind of results they've been getting. This is how much it costs. This is how we deliver it. You rob yourself of that opportunity to get really bored with saying it. And that's the point you want to get to. You want to get to the point where, it's not that you're good, but you're so good at it that it's like nothing to you, that there's no emotional reaction at all. You still love your product or service, but you're not getting hooked by your own conversation. It's not a thing anymore. It's just kind of like, okay, here we go again. That you want that kind of element so that you are not, you're not too emotionally deep into it. You want to be able to detach from the emotion of that point. It should be not that it's completely cold, not that it's that you don't care about them, but you're not over caring. You're not living through their eyes. So that's the next thing is, the second thing is we make sure that we are just doing our half of it. We're not trying to jump into their brains and how they might feel and what they're going through and can they pay, can they not pay. A lot of the time people say to me, oh, I don't have the money right now. And I'm like, well, right now you don't, but you will. I know you really want to come on this course, or I know you really want this coaching. So I'm completely confident that you're going to find a way. I don't know how you're going to do it either, but I know you're going to find a way. That's your half of it. That's your job. And you know what? Once you do that, things will become easier. And the amount of times people have sworn up and down that they wouldn't be able to come up with the money, and often it's a lot of money, like $2,500, or for someone, coming on a course, spending 500 quid might be a lot of money. And they do it. And I don't do them any favors if I am presuming powerlessness in them just because they are, or just because I'm reading that from them, or just because I feel like they should be powerless. So that's something we need to bear in mind, is we just do our half of it. And then they're completely free to say yes or no. So that's the way that it goes. All right, next up we want to look at is that we often make the buyer lose confidence because we're not challenging them. What's exactly the point I'm trying to make here? So the whole thing is that we try to be too nice in the sales process, because we have this idea from life that if we're not lovely and gorgeous all over the place, that people are going to just run away from us. They're just not going to want to know us. And that then put into a sales connotation means that we're not going to challenge. So if someone says something like, oh, yes, well, I can't go for this, but I could probably afford this, we're going to want to stay in rapport with them. We're going to want to make sure that they still like us. So we're going to say something like, oh, okay, right, let's make that happen. Rather than doing something that maybe feels obnoxious to us, or at least alien to us, which is when we say, actually, I think you need this instead. Or they make a statement about, oh, well, I've tried that in the past and it doesn't really work. Instead, what we would normally do is we would go into kind of saying, oh, gosh, I'm so sorry that didn't work in the past, and being too convincing. too like empathetic in the moment. Like, challenge is sexy, challenge is strong. And when you challenge people, and often when I use the phrase, hey, I call bullshit on that. It's a very American phrase. I call bullshit on that. When someone says something and I just don't agree that it necessarily needs to be true for them in that moment, they kind of sit up a little bit more. They're like, oh, and suddenly you have more authority. They have more confidence in you. So it's not that you lose their confidence. You actually gain their confidence with challenge. And it's something that we're not used to. And the great thing is, as we do it in a sales process, we get better at doing it in the rest of our lives. And as we decide that we're not going to take any more from this narcissistic person in our love lives or in our friendships, equally then we get better at the sales process, because we realize that challenging people, and really what is challenge? Challenge is usually just having a higher standard, saying, no, my standard for you is higher than that, or my standard for me, or my standard for my business is higher than that. And so we see that challenge isn't something that is necessarily bad conflict, that it can be something that is very, very empowering for both parties, certainly for you, and we need to start caring about how it is that you're doing in this process. Alrighty, so the fourth thing that we're going to talk about is that, we tend to do this from a protective distance. So it's very, very appealing to us when we're told, you know what, you don't need to talk to anyone, you can just set this up, it's all automatic. I know so many coaches who've come to me saying, oh yeah, well, I don't need coaching right now because I've just set up with this process. And I always say to them, you know what, that process is not going to work. Come back to me in a month and I will teach you how to do it for real. I will teach you how to really make money as a coach. I'll make sure that you actually have your breakthroughs and you don't need to hide behind these systems. And we can talk about why it didn't work. And they say, well, tell me why it won't work. I said, no, we'll do that when I work with you. And often they come back within a few weeks, they're like, okay, you're right, it didn't work. Why is that? Well, the reason that it doesn't work to try and hide behind systems, now I'm not saying that these systems don't work, but I'm saying that you cannot use them to hide behind. They can certainly augment your business model. They can be part of how you're doing things. So let's suppose, for example, that you are someone who makes really great jewelry. And you put your jewelry up on Etsy and the online site where a lot of crafts and vintage stuff is sold, and you just want to do it that way. That's not going to work, because you're going to have people who will want to talk to you, who will want to say things to you, who will say things like, hey, it didn't arrive, or hey, it arrived broken, or it arrived and I don't like it, or you're going to have the conversation anyway. And the great thing is, when you know how to have the conversation, when you know how to get in there with people and, you know, challenge them and presume more from them than they would from them for themselves, and you know how to just really show up and be your strong, awesome self, not be that self that you were taught to be in childhood, then you can sell more. Then you can say to them, you know what, I also have this and I have this and I have this, and you're not afraid of, you're not like, oh gosh, I'm so overly grateful that they bought one little pair of earrings from me. You're like, great, you bought the earrings. Now, have any of your friends admired those? How about you get a stock of things going now, so come Christmas time, you already have all your gifts for your friends and you know that it's going to be things that they like. But the best way to learn how to speak in that way and deal in that way is to start doing your sales face-to-face, person-to-person. And then once you can do that, the systems really help you in that. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to build a system and you're just going to be distanced all the time, and you're not going to be able to use that system fully. And very often, with the way things are getting super saturated. There's so many people doing things online, or, you know, it used to be that it was through sort of direct mails, and then it used to be through direct emails. But whatever way that you're doing it, if you are distanced from the process, it's not serving you. Because you'll constantly be having to look for mechanical ways and reaching out to tons and tons of people. Whereas if you just learn how to sit down with one person, look them in the eye, say, here's what's going on, here's what I think you need, that is going to save you so much time, not even in the long term, in the short term. You'd be amazed at how quickly you'll start to get your results. Like when I coach a lot of actors, performers, singers, they are so focused on, I've got to get my headshots. I've got to get new headshots. I've got to get new video stuff done. I've got to get new footage of this. I've got to get new testimonials. And I'm like, well, why don't you just phone up these agents? Why don't you just phone up these directors? Why don't you just phone up these record company people? And they're like, no, I have to be. And people are over preparing because of this. because they want to keep themselves distanced. And again, they'll be justifying it, like back to point one, like that we have an emotional reaction and then we try to justify it after the fact. That we say, no, I need my headshots. No, I need my video. Yeah, it might be a fact that better headshots, more recent headshots will help you more. It might be a fact that this particular way of putting something online might help you more. But you have to, at the end of the day, be calling someone up. And you know what? That is becoming just really rich, fertile ground for all kinds of success. People are not phoning each other anymore. So the person that you get a personalized email from and you kind of know them, yeah, you're going to be quite warm to them. The person who's approaching you at a distance, you've got to be in a lot of pain and really researching before you're going to pick them up. But the person who's on the phone, it's just the way we're wired as humans. You're going to listen to them. You're going to want to do business with them. You're going to want to be connected with them. So let's take advantage of that, realizing as well that it's helping our healing in all kinds of other ways. It's getting us like really confident for the fact that, we can do this stuff. We can ask for what we need and want, and we can speak up for ourselves. Okay, so the next thing is, this is a really awesome one. This is all about how we are not chemically set up for the win. So there's a lot of people, particularly those who've got a lot of dopamine in them, a lot of people who are sort of, confident, and they're physically confident and they're just out there, the more party people, the people that sometimes we're sort of, peering over the fence looking, wishing we could be them. Those people automatically get this rush of chemical reward. So they are hardwired to want to win. Like those people who just go after it, go after it, go after it, go after it. They set that up usually very early on in the game, maybe early on in their career, but pretty much early on in childhood. They knew that they could aggressively, physically go after something, get that something, and get this rush of reward. I got that, I did that, I made that happen. But when we don't have a lot of those kinds of references, those kinds of experience stacked up inside us, we don't tend to. We tend to leave it till the last minute. So we bring in what we have to bring in. And then once we brought that in, we just feel relief. We can't even enjoy it because it's just kind of saved us from our company going under, or, made sure we can make payroll, or made sure we can pay the rent or the mortgage. So we don't actually get used to feeling it as a win, as an extra thing, as an awesome thing for us. And so that's what I'd like to encourage us to start to do is, once we've got the minimum, because we're the kind of people that we tend to sort of stop when we're safe. We've got the minimum in place and we just kind of say, okay, and we go and we recover, right? We go and we can breathe and we can distract and we can get into our movies or our books or our, whatever it is that we use to disassociate from the world. That's kind of what we do, right? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start to encourage us to find a way where we can actually go for something that we don't need, but we want. Something that's just nice so that we can start to build that way inside us. So our brain can start to recognize how good it feels to get that reward. So we really start to strengthen that reward system. It's kind of like, training mice where, they press that lever, going back to Skinner's behaviorism, right? So the mice are there madly pressing that little lever and they get more food. We can do that for ourselves. We can go and make, once we've made the sales call and it's been accepted and we've got the sale, and then we kind of go, oh, thank goodness for that. Then we can say, all right, let me just do one more. And just challenge yourself to do one more call beyond the one that has kept you safe. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about here because you live it, right? So you kind of collapse back into yourself once you've hit that zone of safety. Instead, I'd like you to say to yourself, right, I'm going to just do that one extra call and I'm going to just see what happens. And you'd be amazed because I remember when I started to do this and suddenly it's like, wow, it's not just what I need, I'm also getting what I want. And it started to make me feel more kind of giddy, not just relieved, but like, oh my goodness, I can do this now. Wow, I can hire someone for a while, or I can buy this outfit, or I can go and stay here. Wow, and that is the way that we're going to start to retrain our systems, recondition ourselves. So we're not just settling for the minimum and feeling okay, that we're starting to associate money and sales with a really, really great feeling. So there's 5 points for today. I'm actually on the road. I'm in Ireland today, so excuse me for using notes. I'm trying to madly keep on top of things, running around doing all kinds of fun stuff. So realize as well that this is a process, and for most people who are more gentle, more softly spoken, this is something that doesn't come naturally. But we are not going to leave it up to the loud, pushy people. We're actually better at it because we have a better gauge when it comes to being nuanced. We can tell if someone's getting annoyed, or we can tell if they're kind of getting more interested. So in fact, this idea that we have to be more brash to be good at sales is completely not right. The thing though that we do have to be better at, that those brasher people are good at, is just getting in the arena. Is just starting to talk, starting to say stuff, not being overly concerned about the way we're sounding or what it is that we're saying. So we can do this. We are designed for this. It's not like I'm not that kind of person. You are. In fact, you can do it even better than the people that you see as good salespeople right now. So the only way you're going to really know that is by testing it. So everything that I'm saying here today, I would like you to test it in the real world, not just in your brain, not just thinking about it, not just journaling about it. Do that if you need to. But I'd like you to get out there and say, okay, today, how can I design my sales day or my asking for things? Even if it's something like, let's suppose that you're a stay-at-home parent and you say, well, this doesn't apply to me. Well, it kind of does, because there's always something that you need and want. So whether you're applying it to a money situation or some kind of convincer situation, you're trying to get people on board with something that you're doing, or just being heard, I'd like you to use those 5 different steps that we talked about today and really notice which one for you is the sticking point. What is it that you tend to do? Is it that you tend to presume too much what the other person's experience is? Is it that you tend to, justify intellectually something that is in fact an emotional reaction? Is it that you, don't have that reward thing going on because you've never gotten yourself to that point? So whatever it is for you, just realize that it is something that you can recondition really, really fast. It only takes like 2 or 3 different sales processes, 2 or 3 different people that you talk to in this new way before it becomes effortless to you. It's not like you have to do it for a year before you can finally breathe. Trust me, it's really, really fast, and you'll get it. You will get this. I remember the time when I was like, wow, I'm never going to be able to make money. I'm never going to be able to change. I'm never going to feel differently. I'm always going to have my heart up in my mouth every single time that I have to talk about money, and it's not the case. And I've taught loads and loads of people how to do this too. So have a good time with it, and we will, as I say, I'm on the road right now. I'm usually on the road, but when I get to the next country, I will check in with you guys again. And until then, stay awesome. You're brilliant. Take care.